Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and welcome to another exciting instalment of Manufacturing Mondays, where we're in the fifth part of building our GBC factory. Awesome! So as I push the remnants of our original mock-up to one side, because we've been cannibalising loads of parts of this over the past few sessions, and we'll be doing even more so today, we can focus on this one, our current build, and a few amendments that I've done since last time. But before I do those, if you are new to this series, I suggest you go back and look at some of the other parts so you know what we're trying to do here and how we've got to this point so far. But in no particular order, I've tidied up the back of this van using some jumper plates and tiles here, and I think that's just a lot cleaner now, and it means the balls are just that half stud nearer us now, so we can see them a little bit better. And that was my idea, so no bedoying there. I have raised all of these computers up a whole brick. They're all on 2x2 bricks now, and I've even color coded them as well. So we've got a blue brick for the blue one, red, yellow and white and so on. So that was a really good idea, just to make them more accessible by this worker. So thanks very much for that, Kaz. Other amendments that I've done include to the front, where it was suggested that I had a bird on a window ledge, much like in the new modular police station. So I really like that idea. Thanks for that. I've reordered the sign on top of the van just so we can make the white dot a bit more visible. And I've also added a van driver because he's probably stuck in there because of the narrow sides here of the old factory build. But I think that's a good improvement as well. So thanks for those ideas. So, before we go on to today's stuff, I thought I'd go back over some of the sticker things. I've decided not to place this one so far, or at least wait until it's in situ in my city to see whether that will fit the area. It pretty much split opinion, as I predicted it would. The idea was maybe to stick that onto this column on the front here, sort of down there. Why you'd have those stickers on the outside is up for grabs. But anyway, so we'll hang on to that. Another great suggestion I'm not going to do today, or at least leave till later to consider, is maybe having an advert here. I thought these little Technic pins showing was a bit of a feature actually, because they kind of look like those big bolts that you get on industrial buildings that kind of hold a building together and kind of stop it sort of bowing out when they had worse building practices back in the day. But we're going to have some more bricked in sections as well. So if we do an advert, it really needs to fit in with the whole side of the building. So I'll probably look at that later. And while I was looking through other stickers, I came across these sheets, which I've used partially before, and they're from the Hidden Side Ghost Train Express set 70424. And it was these stickers that are all in dark red, which I was sort of considering. And obviously I don't want to use the ones with the train logo, but these ones with the vents on, I thought could be used in all sorts of places, not least as vents maybe on this column of bricks here, that way, to act as kind of vents to the lift shaft system or whatever it might be in this build, because it's not really a ball lift, because that's part of the illusion, of course. But I could kind of put one of those per floor. But I'm going to hold off on them as well for now, just until I've done a bit more of the building. But I think that one is probably a bit more in keeping with the outside of the building and the old look of it. So I probably will do that one. Right, so the first stage of today's build is probably to put on the floor so we can get building from there. And I'll probably do the first couple of runs of bricks as well, just so we can build very easily onto that. And if you remember from our mock-up, this floor is actually going to have incorporated into it the kind of cables or flex bits, piping sort of stuff that enables the balls to run on top of them and then drop through to the plinko board beneath. So I'm probably going to need to steal these, and we need to do some really intricate sort of wedge plate work in order to leave exactly the right amount of space for the balls to make that journey unencumbered. So as usual, the bigger the build gets on my build desk, the harder it is to fit in. But in this case, I don't think I'll be able to build it in sections and then combine them, just because it's so complicated. And that's also the reason why I haven't added some of the amendments that were suggested, like glassing in the control room area and things like that, just because I think it'll be even more congested with that. And when all the roofs are on and things, I don't think you'll be able to see in that well. Another one was having a catwalk linking that side to this side. And of course, it's going to be a facade. So basically, some of these other features could be in the bit of the building that's kind of been chopped off the back. So yeah, I'm going to plough on then. And the next section, as I said, is the floor. And I've built this setup here, which is very complicated in its choice of plates. And that's because it has to get around quite a few different features. We've got the drain pipe sections here and here that need to combine with the front. I've got the main ball lift in this section here. Indeed, there's a little section here that's on the top that you can't really see at the moment, which is where the manual ladder is for the employees to climb up between the floors. But of course, the main cutaway is this kind of ball run that is going to be part of the mechanism. And I've used these 12x3 wedge plates. They aren't a pair, they're the same one, just flipped 180 degrees to create this really quite beautiful channel, I think. And that was quite a hard feature to incorporate because in the old build, this kind of bit of ball run was completely suspended in midair. And obviously I had to put the floors in at some point, and it just kind of coincided with the natural breaking point for a floor. So it kind of has to be built into it. And I think that makes sense. I think bits of factory would sort of be between floors rather than just sort of sat halfway on them at waist height sort of thing. So I haven't got a problem with that. And I think the end result looks quite good actually. So the pipes that I'm using are the same as in the mock-up. So I've got these sort of bendy ones that I can use for the first section, and I've got these sort of more rigid ones with Technic pins in for the last section, and they all sort of go like that, and then this will be able to plug into the back of that as well. And I largely picked these two types because they're types that I already had. And they're the cheapest types of Lego pieces, bits that you already have. So I kind of played around with them and how long they were, their geometry, in order to get them to work in the best possible way for me. And if you remember, this distance here is actually the right distance for a ball to not fall between the two flex cables. But then when this is in place, they'll actually be deliberately a bit too far apart at this end. So when the ball gets to the point where it isn't supported, it will just fall vertically onto the plinko board. So these two ends actually combine with the wall now, so that will be nice and strong. And all of that's really connected to this underside. So there's a bit of a sort of Technic setup there with what looks like kind of two air conditioning boxes or something like that holding this axle with all of the mechanism in the middle there, and that's quite rigid, so that's important. So I think I can just add this now. You can see there's fragments of the floor for the next floor there already, where this one had those cutaways. So if I just push that onto these sides, and then hopefully it will secure all of the walls. Ooh, I'm not going to push it down any more than that on camera. It will secure all of the walls and get a bit more strength when I've put some more bricks on. But there we go. So there's at least the floor below walled in. And you can see that unit there. I think that looks really quite good actually. So yeah, it's getting a bit dark, but we'll always be able to shine a light in and see what's going on. But it's very colourful, isn't it? Alright, so that's all pushed down, and I've got some extra supports for the next bit of the drain pipe and some of the lower wall just to hold everything nicely in place. And I can kind of test this bit of the run by just dropping one of the GBC ginormous balls into the mechanism, where it will roll down there and onto the plinko board. And now it's probably loose somewhere in there because we haven't got the mechanism to get it out again at the moment. But anyway, I'll find that later, no doubt. So at least that works. And then I think the next bit to do is actually, well, kind of working back up the mechanism kind of the wrong way. And on our original one, you'll remember on this floor. It's a very exciting floor really, because we've got lots of features. We had the two different down ramps that get recombined at this sort of junction here. And before that even, there's the seesaw that kind of flips them into the two different ways. And one of the ways has this wonderful kind of balcony on the front as well. So we'll be doing all of that today. But as I say, probably working backwards to a degree. So I think the next bit to do is this sort of recombiner from the two different paths. And that was obviously all in rainbow brick. And I've tried to make all of this a lot more neat, as hopefully you can tell. But what I thought I still would do is kind of color code each of the different sections. So you see this section is yellow and black. I thought then we could have different whole colored sections, making each sort of part of the whole process quite discrete and distinct. So we've got red just for the ball lift, and I thought I'd use white for the recombining unit. So this is kind of a setup of all sorts of different bricks, a bit hard to explain really, but essentially the balls come from here and from here, and then there's some slight curved slopes there that drop them onto this long straight slope which fires them down on their journey onwards. So this, with its sort of added sirens and color-coded bits and bobs, kind of fits something like there. And that means we can have the two ramps coming up from there, and there's a bit of sort of area to decorate with, probably an employee or some other details here, probably more computers, let's face it. So I'll push that down, and then I think we'll need to start building this side. So we've got the supporting structure for the ramps to go down to that, and that'll have that wonderful balcony on. Really looking forward to that. Right, well that's all pushed down firmly, and it actually gives it a lot more strength by sort of tying all of these things together from the top as well as the bottom. So I'm very happy with that path all the way down. So now I'm going to actually build what I think is arguably my favourite part, which is the kind of balcony bit that's on the front. So if we look at the original rainbow brick mock-up again, it's this bit where the balls actually exit the building temporarily, go round a useless corner to go straight back into the building through these sort of double arches. So I'm really keen to get that looking great on the new one. So if we start by building this wall, and this is just more of the normal bricks, solid this wall for this floor at least, with some of the profile bricks and so on. And this has actually got one of those modified plates with a bar on, just so it can support what will be the back ramp that will go from kind of there down to there. And then I need to think about windows, because much like here where we had a full height window and then a partial one, in this case because of the garage, we're going to have to do the same sort of thing here. So there will be a normal window there, but for this section I've only really got room to do kind of a fraction of a window. So this is the same setup on the bottom, but then we've got some 1x2 plates which are actually connected halfway across the window panes themselves, just to get off the half stud type setup back to normal setup. And then we've got some of these 3 long jumper plates with 2 studs on. So that can go there and continue the sort of offset look, while still actually being aligned for studs for the next section. You can see there, they're all perfectly in line. So that is a little bit of window underneath our balcony. And then the balcony setup itself is kind of this, couple of plates with the inside bit being dark red and the outside bit being dark bluish grey. Now I bought this plate originally to do this setup, and then I bought an alternative which is actually roughly the same, but just with rounded corners rather than these sort of wedge corners. And I'm in 2 minds as to which looks better actually. This one doesn't have any small pieces of tile coming out of the edge, but then when we put the curved brick on top, it'll actually match this one a lot better. So I think I'm going to go for the second one. And I can't remember which way round it was, but one of these parts was a relatively new part, so actually hadn't been available until recently, or at least in this colour. I think that was right. So when I designed it, first of all, it wasn't available. but then became available. So I think I'm going to put that to one side for now and work with this. But if we bear it in mind later, we might want to go back to that one. So this essentially will go onto the wall here. This is where everything falls apart. Just trying to think which way around it was. I think it's that far in. I don't want to push it down too much because I haven't got my pillar there yet. And then behind that, I'll have another plate setup that's built right into the wall, which is going to be where the balls come down on the seesaw and actually go two different directions. So that also needs to be fitted in with this whole setup, pretty much there. Oh, so you can see it's incredibly complicated. All these different bits that have to be kind of put in the right order, he says, having put them in on the wrong order. Let's put this column in here and then we can really push this down. There we go. So there, you've got kind of a half window here, which I think is good because it kind of shows that the building was full of windows, but then maybe with amendments that were required for this balcony, for example, amendments had to be made and a window was kind of cut in two as the factory required it. So yeah, so far so ugly, but we'll keep going. So if we start building the actual curved brick bit, so there you see what my problem is. We've got the tiny little corners here coming over the edge, but at least the curve is mirrored by the plate underneath if we do that. So I think this might be the best way of doing things. And I've sort of got the grey stripe bit matching our normal grey and grey stripes. Bit of dark bluish grey for the base and the normal colouring otherwise, building straight into a red wall. So I think that's the best I can do on that. But to further accentuate the fact that this is actually a manufacturing business that makes ginormous balls in its 4 trademark colours, I thought I'd add 4 more of these 1x1 round tiles just onto the studs there so we don't see them, and also so it just brings some of that wonderful branding that we've got on the van as well onto the front of the build. We will of course have a huge sign here, which I think I'm going to take someone's advice and save that to the last part as the sort of crowning glory. But I do think bringing in this 4 coloured sort of motif wherever possible is a good plan. Yeah, so that's looking good. So I think I can start to box this in a little bit more. Oh, no, next I need the arches. So these were quite hard to get. 1x4 arches in dark red, but they're very important to the system because that goes like that. Then I can brick that in like that. Hey, hey, looking good. So we'll see nice, colourful, ginormous balls coming from this direction, going around this corner, and then going back into the building to go down the near side ramp to this mixing desk thing here. Yeah, looking good. I'm liking that. Right, so the next stage is to get in the mechanism in here, and that is the very simple mechanism of the seesaw. So we've actually got one of these barnacle kind of claw type pieces, sometimes used for eyes actually, which is the bit that forces the ball to go one way, tip the seesaw, and then go the other way and tip the seesaw back there. So that setup can go in here. Very simple, but absolutely foolproof. So that's the way we like it. So that will tip freely in there. And then we can build in the rest of the wall around it, hopefully. There we go. Looking good. So this is the bit that I could have just left kind of chopped off level with the wall, kind of like the bits that I've got down here. But I decided to make this a feature just because it moves. So every time a ball goes over it, it just tips that. Well, it's only about 20 degrees, isn't it? But nonetheless, it's quite a pleasing thing. So I might incorporate that into a bigger feature on the outside. But what I did on the original was use one of these pieces. I've got one in each of the 2 greys because I couldn't really decide which one I wanted. I think the dark kind of contrasts more, even though it's darker. I think it's a bit different from the big block of light grey there. So this will be another element of the factory that sort of shows motion. So even from this side, where you aren't seeing virtually any motion at all, you will see this just ticking away. And I think that's a really interesting additional part. Right, so I can put those 2 to one side. And then just to finish off, I think we'll turn it around here. So yeah, it's looking a bit messy at the moment, but I can add this great big hulk of bricks to here, which kind of joins everything together, and it also prevents any balls leaking out the wrong way, and indeed this as well, just to go there, so the balls have only got one possible course of action. And then the last thing to tie it all together is this, the 4x4 plate with a hole in the middle, which will go across the hole. Hold on, let me get this right. That way around, which kind of joins the two sides together and ensures that the balls fall right on the middle of that seesaw. In fact, let's get a couple of balls so we can test this. So the first one will go, if I can get it down the hole, will go this way. Whoop, caught it. And then the second one will go that way. So you can see that that works as well. Caught it. Brilliant. So if we just have a look at the front again, then hopefully we will be able to see one going around the balcony. So watch for a blue ball coming here. There you go. And that's bouncing around as well. So yeah, I think that's working really well. Cool. On to the rest of the walls and our lift shaft. Right, onto the lift shaft. And I want even more controls, so I've got some modified bricks here to take some tiled pieces, and I've got some lights there, a green and red light, and a kind of handle that you can wrench down to shut down the ball production if necessary because of safety. So that setup needs to go there and continue the column that the balls are secretly taken upstairs. So that pushes down well. And then the first of a few stickers for this section is this wonderful danger, explosive gases, no exposed flame sticker. And that's from the set 76037, Rhino and Sandman Supervillain Team Up from 2015. And I just thought that that would be another good one to have on top of the one that we've got on the door here and the cylinder there. And that would be kind of a door to nowhere. In that, well, we can open it, but we'll be able to see all the mechanism going by, which might be quite good fun actually. But it's sort of suggesting that maybe that's a storeroom, or maybe this is actually a set of stairs that goes between several of the floors. Who knows? But it adds a bit of mystery. So I'll just add a setup around that and a setup on the back just to go there. And the one on the back's got more of these modified bricks rather, which means that I can continue the ladder that we had going between all of the floors yet further. So it will go something like that. So we've got an unbroken ladder now from the very bottom all the way up to what will be the next floor, because the next floor will start there and you'll be able to hop out. It is a rather cramped hole in here. I sort of showed it last time. I can get the tip of my finger in, but not much more. You definitely have to breathe in if you were a minifigure. So that's excellent. Yeah, a couple more tiles here. So here is a 1x2 sort of control panel with G written on. That's suggesting General Electric, I suppose, and some sort of power setup. And that's from another one of the Batman movie sets, Scarecrow Fearful Face Off 70913. And that can go there. And then another tile from the one we looked at last time, the 70901, Mr. Freeze Ice Attack, is this other GE one, which is a dial, which is almost in the red, but not quite. So I thought that could go there, and that looks very interesting as well. So then we need a guy to be working here. So if I just grab that spare guy that I've got at the front, he's got a massive wrench and a toolbox, which I don't know if he needs that actually for up here. But anyway, I thought he could have another control panel. So I just thought I'd have one with some simple dials on and two of these great levers. I mean, that's what you had to use back in the day, these levers, to suggest any sort of control panel before printed pieces, or printed control pieces anyway. So I think, yeah, maybe about there. So that could be his station. Maybe he's just coming back from having fixed a problem. So let's put him there, and let's have him looking out as well a little bit. And then I thought another thing I could do here, which was actually an idea inspired by a suggestion from the last part, was not to add the crate, although that is a good idea. It's to add a few deflated balls that clearly have got caught in the machine or something like that. And I've done these by putting one of those 2x2 round tiles face to face with one of those 2x2 shoe pieces or sort of inverted curved tiles. And then I can just sort of put a couple of those in there. I might add some more in due course, but they were the only ones that I had in the right colours in a pair. So I thought that was good. So thanks for that idea. But yeah, I think having a few rejects being caught and put to one side is a good idea on top of the skip down there, because you can't really see that skip that well. So that's a very busy scene. I think we could also do with a rat underneath the machine. People suggested a mouse or a cat. I think a cat would get caught in the machine. And a mouse would be good, but I've only got one mouse and I've got plans for it. So a nice big rat will work very well. So we'll put him there. Yes, that's another good scene. Right, so I can complete the wall now with more of these sort of setups like that. And another great big window piece. And clearly there's a bit more to do around the front and side as well. So let's get on to that. So what do we got? Column, window, column, window. So that's looking good, isn't it? So at least this one kind of looks like it really sort of ties in with all the other ones and it's just been converted. Yeah. So, I mean, it's also showing its age now, isn't it? Because obviously it's been, you know, kind of used and abused, this building, to a degree, and that it's had many lives and many different requirements made of it over the years. And then a final bit there. And then an extension of the bit that's half a stud off in the same way as on previous floors. And I do think that those ghost train stickers might work well down there. Almost tempted to try it, just mid the sort of tool section on each one. Right, so we've enclosed that floor now, and the balcony is looking rather fantastic. I do need to add the drain pipes on the outside, and then I need to get onto both of the two ramps that link our wonderful sort of seesaw mechanism and that mixing table bit over there. Right, so I have added those stickers just to see how they look, and I think they look quite good actually. They're slightly obvious in the fact that they aren't as glossy as the bricks themselves and are a bit more matte in colour, but I still think they look quite good. And in Brick Nottingham at least, the next building will be quite close, so they won't be a huge feature that's noticeable from a great distance. So yeah, I think I'll keep them, but do let me know what you think, because I'd be really interested in your opinion. And while we're here, this is one of the areas that posed a bit of a problem in the design process, in that the conveyor belt within the ball lift here has the teeth on that lift the balls, and as we said in the previous video, that needed a bit more room to get around, which forced us to offset this column of bricks by half a stud. But what actually started off as a problem actually ended up being a really nice feature with this rather nice column of bricks that kind of looks a bit like a chimney breast. So, you know, problems can actually become features. And talking of which, there's another one here, because you'll see I've completed this very straight drain pipe on the right hand side, and it's looking really great. Very much in line with the buildings in real life Nottingham that inspired this build. But this one has got a bit of a problem because it actually comes into contact with the balcony bit that we did before. Now, this wouldn't be a problem to people who are actually adding the balcony later, you'd imagine, because they'd just do something very simple, like build basically around it and then continue up. So I thought I'd do exactly the same thing. So what I've got is actually some of these 1x2 plates with the rounded corners in black to kind of continue the theme of a drain pipe that can basically just kind of come out at an interesting angle and become kind of another interesting feature of the building. And when I add it back to the normal type setup at the top, you'll see that that actually is probably a good problem to have had, because now we've got a really interesting feature that looks very natural that would have resulted from a long life of the building. So I really like that as well. So Yeah, don't worry if you have problems with your Lego build, because they can become absolutely awesome features. Right, so back to the insides. Now, I've got this guy putting down his toolbox, and I decided to give him something to hold, something like our boss has with his clipboard there. And indeed, I was going to give him another one of those clipboards because I've got quite a few. But a suggestion I got was to use the Newbury Subway sticker sheet that people knew I had from earlier, 70430, to have this tile, which is rather interesting actually. It's got last checked and the days of the week down the side with ticks and crosses. So that seems to be a very appropriate tile for this guy to be holding. So make him hold the bottom and tilt it so we can see it a bit more. Then I think that is a great idea. So let's see if we can get that into our scene. Like, oh, maybe one step back. There we go. That's looking pretty good as well. So yeah, thanks for that suggestion. And while we're here, I'm just going to add a bit more detail in bringing in our four main colours of ball, ginormous ball, and I thought I'd have a little tank there, and I've got one of those sort of macaroni piece type pipes kind of mysteriously going off into the floor, and I thought I'd have one of those steering wheel pieces kind of on the front as well, and that's just to fill a bit more space underneath these ramps. So the ramps themselves, I've continued the color coding sort of theme for each section, because the machine at the top is going to be yellow. We've got red there, we've got white there. So one color we haven't got so far is green. Yeah, a bit garish, but you know, it's not a bit that's going to be too prominent. And I think color coding them all makes it a bit more interesting, as I said earlier. So this one, the ball runs down the underside of all those propeller pieces, kind of turning them in an interesting way as it goes. So this might be a bit tricky to put in, I'm not sure on camera. Oh, it is quite tricky because the camera's in the way. Let's see if I can do it there. Oh, there we go. I think that's in. Cool. And then the one on this near side will actually clip onto that modified plate there that's been built into the wall. And this one I decided to have as blue. So for this, it's very important that you have the spacing right so all of these flag pieces can move very freely, so they aren't accumulating the ginormous balls when they're going down. And I've tried to color code these to four colors as well. So we've got yellow and yellow there, white, and well, they don't make that piece in white, sadly. So I've actually gone for an old grey one because that's the nearest color I could get, because it's slightly paler than light bluish grey. Then we've got red and red, and blue and well, black for now. Now that black one will get replaced by a blue one in due course, but they're quite hard to get hold of. They've not been in many sets, so that's a placeholder. It's the only incomplete bit, annoyingly. So anyway, that can go onto here. This is probably going to be even more tricky to do with a camera in front of your face. Oh, he says, putting it straight in with no problems whatsoever. Cool. So yeah, so the balls will go down the seesaw and then go one way down here spinning them, or the other way clacking all of those, and it sounds absolutely fantastic. And you see we've wasted no space at all with the inclusion of this cylinder here and the rat and all of this very busy scene over here. So I think it's looking rather good. And the only problem really is that the bit with all of the pipes that we started off doing that's integrated with the floor is really hard to see unless you kind of bend down and peer in. But for me, that's part of a good Lego set in a way, is making you kind of look at it in different ways and peer at it and try and see what's going on. And the bit that I was really trying to make happen was so we could see some of what was going on the inside from the outside. So I think you'll be able to see the balls going through that sort of mixing table area here. So you can definitely see my finger there. And hopefully you'll be able to see them on the green ramp and maybe even that blue ramp. I don't know, depending on the angle. So fingers crossed for that. But I still think that we're not quite in a position to really set balls running through this. Firstly, because there's no way of getting them back up, because I still haven't got the chain in here. Oh, you can see the ladder there. That's looking good, isn't it? But also because, well, it might need a little bit of fettling. I'm not entirely sure. But I think for now, we can just really admire its beautiful, colourful palette. and the fact that it's really looking very well tied together, I think. Very happy with this indeed. And I guess next time we'll do the fourth and final floor, which will be up there, where we'll have the machine and the horizontal and indeed vertical conveyor belts as well. So yeah, absolutely excellent. Well, I think we've had a very productive session again, actually. This building is looking rather fantastic. You can really see it coming together from the front vista. I think that's its probably best angle, and I really love this splash of colour and the interesting element that is this balcony. Could always change that shape if I wanted to, still not sure about that one. I do really like the amendments we made on the front, like the bird and the driver, so that's really good. I'm looking forward to seeing the wheel on this side pinging from side to side. And you see there is quite an expanse of space that I could put an advert in. I even had the idea of having sort of an animated advert that would sort of move, kind of like one of those Las Vegas signs where you kind of got the cowboy sort of tipping his hat or something like that. But that might be very difficult to do, especially with the pieces that I've got at hand. The ladder all the way through that window, you can see quite clearly now. So I think that has made all of those windows very interesting as well. The stickers on this column, I think that's worked. More windows on this side. And then even more details on the inside. Wow, this is colourful. That's why I went for all these rainbow colours and the green at the back, just so everything would pop. Even the seesaws in a bright colour of yellow there. And then we've got the repeated 4 colours of our ginormous balls there. The amendment here just brings the balls a little bit further out, so that's really good. More colour there. Another really interesting scene there with a wonderful checklist. More dials, more computers, more warning signs. I'm really happy with it. But do tell me what you think. So as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And if you value this channel, there are many ways in which you can support it. Do check out the links in the description below. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, we'll be doing another brick haul on Wednesday. And then on Friday, we'll be back in the city for another build. Probably won't be trains this time. But I haven't decided again because I've been quite busy recently. So I'll see what I've got that's ready to go. But until then, see you!